Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. We are so glad that you decided to join us today. And with us, I have one of those guests to be somebody that I've known for 54 years. Oh, that's how old I am, in case anybody wants to know, which means if I've known somebody for 54 years, oh, yes, you guessed it, this is one of my sisters. I have six sisters in total. So this is one of my sisters right here, and I am delighted for all of my global friends to get to know Miss Donniel Candy Sims. So today at Sagionic, the word Sagionic means movement by movement in time. And if we think of history, throughout all history, anytime a movement arose, it came through the movement of one individual. And that movement in return created a movement. And the word Sagion all by itself means carriers of wisdom. So Miss Donniel Candy Sims here is one of those carriers of wisdom. Today we're going to be, she is an established author. Today we're going to be sharing her book, Hope Realized. And I would like to share a little bit with you about DCS, Donniel Candy Sims. And this is about her book. As a young child, Cheyannes and her daddy were inseparable. Suddenly, and without any warning, he was gone. Nothing seemed important anymore. She stopped living life and merely existed. Just when she had almost completely shut the world out, they appeared on the scene. A snowman, a gumball, a quirky boy. As a grown woman, Cheyannes looks back on how they were just the beginning of bringing purpose to not only her life, but everything around her. I welcome you to come on in and stroll down memory lane with her and enjoy. A little bit about Donniel. Donniel Sim cherishes the moments with family and friends as she raised her 4 children for a while in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She is now living back in Washington State where she grew up. She works as a dental assistant during the day, and as a 2-time lupus survivor, she knows how important it is to find the bright side of things and does her best to do so. When she forgets, her children help to remind her. Creative writing was one of her favorite subjects growing up. She can be found outside on walks with her grandson, watching Marvel movies, and has been known to make some of the best chocolate chip cookies around. You can contact Donniel and follow her on social media. And on the bottom of this YouTube video, you'll be able to have that contact information for Donniel Candy Sims. Now, here comes my interjection. So as we're getting ready to start this broadcast, I go over to make a cup of coffee. And this revelatory picture/scene comes before me, and I think, how am I going to get this out without crying? And I thought of who is, like, and my mind flashed throughout 54 years of living as being one of the receivers of who Donniel Candy Sims is. And I thought, Donniel is such an encourager that she could never be confined to one geographical location because there was way too many people on earth that needed her encouraging voice. And every place she has stepped in life, she has used that as a platform. She has not stepped into any environment to thank me, myself, and I, but instead every single last human environment she's ever been placed in, she's ever sat in, she's worked in, she's passed by, she has always spoken words of grace, love, mercy, not judgment, and filled with compassion. She is a woman who has always looked out for the underdog. And so it is going to be quite the honor to have this interview with this woman today, who I get to call my sister. And that's the camera interpretation of what I call my sister at times, as I would expect her to use the camera version of what she calls me as well. So Donniel, as we're going to be discussing your book today, Hope Realized. What a title. And I would like you to share with viewers when this began. When did this creative journey begin in your life?
The book or just creative
You.
writing?
Creative. You. The creative writing. Because the book wasn't, the book is not where it began. Right? So
Right.
when do you recollect going back that first moment of excitement that came about in your mind when you began to articulate on a paper thoughts?
I was in fourth grade, and it was when my teacher read us Where the Red Fern Grows, Mr. Bartoy. And he read it to us. I loved it. I read it to my mom when she was sick. She read it to me when I was sick. And when I was in ninth grade, I even used it as a book report to get a good grade because I was running behind and I knew the book by heart and I got an A. So that was kind of
That's
fun.
called wisdom. That's called wisdom.
That's right. And I think just, I used to journal a lot when I was a kid. And I wanted, as if I wanted future generations to know the moment, to feel the moment. So I would journal. It is 9:20 in the morning. I just woke up. I brushed my teeth. I'm eating cereal. I would say what kind of cereal it was. I'd say who was around me. I'd say what street I was on. Those are like, they don't really paint a picture, but in my mind, it was my beginnings of seeing my surroundings. And so I think that kind of helped me to see the surroundings of the characters. And our mom, Charlene Green, she would always draw things and she put faces on them. Or she had these characters, Granny Gooch, or um, she would encourage me. I had this granny character I did. She would, every time we'd get there, she'd encourage me to do it. I wrote a poem, which isn't in it. It's like woven into Hope Realized. But that poem, Mom used to make me recite at every thing we had. She would make us girls, um, we would have to sing for people that came over. So she tried to pull this out of us. Also going to Stanislaus Elementary was helpful because it was a school that was built on creativity for you to
That's
step outside of
right.
the box.
And that was in Stanislaus Elementary in West Seattle, Washington. It was an open concept school,
Mm.
and so you didn't have the classroom walls. And it was so, to say it was diverse in West Seattle is quite the understatement. Would you say there was literally countries representative at
I
Stanislaus
would.
Elementary?
And what it kind of did in a way is it made it hard to step out into society, into the real world, because every time I'd feel confined in a box, I would kind of rebel against it, and then search for the people that needed help, I guess is what you're saying, the underdog, because I
But it,
learned differently.
yes,
I
but
didn't
it,
learn in a structure.
but it wasn't rebellion. And this is what I was shown when I went to make a cup of coffee. It wasn't rebellion. No more than I just interviewed another person who could not stay confined to the walls of a building or AKA a church building, and instead he's traveled to over 100 countries, right? And so if we take out, if we see the purpose, right? If we see your purpose, right? It had to go out. You had to go out, right? So your purpose in having new environments to encourage people would be no different than, you can't send me into public and tell me don't talk to strangers. I wouldn't know what to
Right.
do with myself, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so then when you see yourself as you were created to be, to represent love and encouragement, it all of a sudden takes on a new form.
Mm-hmm.
So the years went by. You continued to creatively jot down things, of course. And one thing I like is that even though we were in the same household, right? You said you were having a cereal. My brain, being in the same household, thinks, "Good Lord Jesus, did she enjoy that powdered milk?" Because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I went to school to have the school lunches so that I could get the real milk.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
good.
perspective, right? And so as the years continue to go on, here you say there was a snowman, there was a quirky man, there was a gumball machine, right? So where did these characters come from in your mind? Because these characters didn't come to life or surface with the book. They happened earlier. So share with us, where did these characters even come from?
Well, Mom always told us that bluebirds, blue jays were good luck. So mom's, and then grandmother Murphy would always tell me, you can't always just hear God in a building, but you hear him in the birds. So that's where the voices started coming to the fact that we can hear things all around us. The quirky boy was an inspiration. A friend of mine that had been with me, worked with me during a time of, I guess, self doubt or kind of self misdirection, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but was encouragement there. Still saw the good in me when that meant a lot to me. Then what else? And then the snowman basically originated. His character came to life when, this is fiction, but you draw from life. Okay.
That's right. That's
and
right.
I remember being a young single mom and not being able to afford things that my kids would want at the store. So my second son, Alex, had seen this snowman and he wanted it at Walmart, but I know I didn't have the money. So I wrote a check and I got a fee on my next payday for it. I'm being transparent. That was back in the day, and then I brought that home, and so it's here still, and I never put it away. It's always out.
That's really beautiful. Because now let's go back to our grandma for a second, because it stems from, because that goes past our mom and to her mom, right? Now, for viewers who don't know this, my grandmother, if she sang, she sounded like this. There is beauty all around. Like, it was so low that you were like, oh gosh, bless her heart, right? But my grandmother learned to whistle entire songs. Did you know that, Donniel?
No, I knew Grandma Merdine could do that, but I didn't know Grandma Murphy could do that.
Grandma Murphy could just whistle for hours. Just whistle songs. So she learned to take something she had and expand it instead of something she didn't have and discredit herself.
Right, yeah.
Okay? So then so share with us more. So when did those creative thoughts of different things that you began to partner with or see, because your characters would have had to been developed, right? So I interviewed somebody who said, when you are an author, your characters are basically called the Bible. And in the Bible, you continue to add to the characters, right? And so that you don't overlap your characters. And this is a woman who is launching her 53rd and 54th book in 11 years, right? That's Colette Cameron. So tell us how you began to develop the characters that compiled the book.
Well, years ago, I did a lot of acting, and an older seasoned actress had told me, you look through the eyes of the character. If you become the character, then you're going to lean a certain way. If you become the character, you're going to walk a certain way. You're going to respond a certain way. Not think. So if you watch a movie, you can tell someone that just walks across the hall and stands where they're told to stand, and they put their hands in a certain way and look really awkward. Or you can tell a purpose. This has purpose and meaning behind what they do. So what that did was that gave me an insight into when I decided to actually write something. I had extra time on my hands. The job I was doing, I would answer phones, didn't get a lot of phone calls. A computer was in front of me, and I just started writing. And one thing I would do is everything I wrote, I would make myself see through that person's eyes. Make myself, so if it says she rolled her eyes, It's not because I thought, oh, that character needs to roll her eyes, but because she thought something that was so ridiculous about somebody that she had to roll her eyes at them. So even though the thoughts may not be everything be written, the actions kind of show it. But that's when it started. And I just, every single thing I write, I see through the characters, and I have to know why they're doing it. I think as a background in acting too, I have to know why they're doing it, what they're thinking. And that's kind of why I've started on book 2, but I'm kind of at a point to where I have to know why. Mark Twain had said something to the effect that fiction has to be more believable than reality. I wish I knew the whole thing about that, but fiction has, because people are going to question it, or they'll question it. Reality, sometimes people believe anything, which is kind of funny, but yeah, so that kind of helped me, and I had a little fun with it too, because at one point I would say something like, she turned her car, she turned the key in the ignition, and so I write little things that made absolutely no sense and read it to my kids, like she forgot to open the garage door and slammed into it. I would just do fun things. So I made my characters do stupid things when I was writing, just to get myself out of, I'm just going to write a sentence and it's going to sound good.
Yeah.
And then the imagination part, I know we got that from Mom, and it's just rooted in us to like believe and have hope for things, and like believe the best. So for me, and I tried to, like if you watch America's Got Talent or different things like that, you have to have a variety. Your characters actually mean a lot. If they don't, if the audience or the readers don't like your characters, they won't like your book. Like you won't watch a movie if there's someone that you don't like.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it could be a not so good movie, but if it's that person you love to watch, you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that answers your question or
It
not.
It does. And it does. No, it does. And that's really good. That's really good, because if we think of it, okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind, like Donniel in the lion's den, okay, so whether you are a Bible believing person or not, most people know that phrase, Donniel in the lion's den. I think it's just something that people know, right? Well, truth be told, or some people know about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? So somebody, or let's just stick with Donniel. We're going to stick with Donniel for a second. Okay, come on. He did not skip over to the entrance of the lion's den. Let's get real. But it wasn't documented how he went over to the lion's den, right? Or when he was lowered down into the lion's den, right? It doesn't say he was quivering. It doesn't say he was sweating. It doesn't say he was just lowered down into the den. So one thing that's kind of interesting is it's actually open for perspective, right? And so one thing you did in your book that is so extremely profound, you don't read anything in there that would depict the tone of a person's skin. There's nothing in here that says the type of hair. There's nothing in here that talks about the color of the eye, right? There is a few things in there that would depict different accents were used, but it's not the character. It's just in the moment. It's confined to like the moment. So can you tell us how, through your creative imagination, you were given that direction for this project?
Because for years, Hollywood has, or just media in general, books in general, it's centered around whatever race they feel is the best at that time. Or I know there are period pieces, but I just wanted every child, no matter race, religion, creed, even though there is religion woven in there, I was careful not to say the name of this scripture or the name of the book, because I wanted someone to think, but if you are a Christian, you're going to see things that are Christian in there, though. You're just going to know that. But I wanted someone, even if they're of a different religion, to think, oh, that could be my scriptures that I was reading or something like that. But also, I wanted every person to be able to pick it up and picture themselves. That was very careful. The woman who helped me publish the book on Amazon, Julia Royston, had I was very careful not to put anything on the cover that showed a person or anything like that, So for me, I wanted, I heard a song years ago, and it said, "Oh, she brushed her long blonde hair." And I thought, well, that just ruins that song for everyone else who might be listening to it. What? And I don't know. Even though that was his view of whatever, whoever,
Yeah, yeah.
that was his view of the person he was trying to write the song about. But still, I just wanted to keep it so everyone could picture themselves in it,
And
and feel valued and important.
yeah, and it's what's so good about that is that that's you staying true to your character and who you've been created to be. Because no matter the environment you've stepped into, you want every single person to feel special. Just to feel special. That's so that's you being true to your character, of who you are. So since this stems over the course of your life, this is culminated through you establishing the gift of creative writing as a child, and then you have 4 kids. I'm assuming those 4 kids didn't happen in one year, right?
Yeah.
So throughout motherhood, throughout your career, tell us a little bit about how you kept hope in the midst of being a 2-time survivor of lupus. How did you keep hope in that?
You just made yourself continue to believe that, um, things are going to work out. And also, having, been married and divorced, all that stuff, I was raising boys, and I had to believe in men still. Um, I had to believe in hope with that. I had to believe when I got sick. So in other words, I didn't want any of my thoughts to be put up on my kids. So sometimes you have to just get rid of bad thoughts and then bring the positive in there. And then when it comes to, like, when I was sick, I wanted to believe that, I'm not going to be sick all the time, because I wanted, to live for my, my grandson, and, for my kids and my grandson. I was kind of an older mom. So I had my first when I was 29. But, I think you just have to make yourself want to hope. That's all there is to it. I remember thinking years ago that it was, if you could be a little bit happy, if you could try to be positive all the time, in the bad times you'll still be positive a little bit. If you can try to be happy all the time, not fake happy, but sometimes you do have to fake it till you make it. Then somewhere when it's a really hard time, that'll still be there a little bit. So I think that kind of helps hope be there. And just to, over the years, I've kind of told myself not to judge people. And it's really hard sometimes, because there's been situations in my life where I'll want to judge that person, and I'll tell, but it's like in my mind, I make myself stop and nope, try to see the good in that. And so I think my characters, although they're not perfect, I try to give them a good outcome. I don't know how to say it, but I try to, let hope be realized in all of their lives, because I want that moment where, but they all have a struggling point, and but then there's a moment where they pull through. Not everyone, but, so, people who like tragic endings,
Yeah, yeah.
this may not, I don't know. There is something tragic.
But one thing that's really good is I'm glad you articulated the way you just did then, because in this masterpiece, you had to get it to stand straight, right? In this masterpiece, yes,
It is my first book, so I'm
no,
still
no,
learning.
no, don't go there. Don't go there. It's a
Tells me
masterpiece.
not to go
Okay.
there.
I would like you to see that my sister and I are color coordinated, and we didn't plan it. Oh, look at that. We're color coordinated.
But how do you do that? Okay.
It's hard. You got to figure out how to do it. But one thing about this book, it speaks of death. It speaks of birth. It speaks of separation of human relationships, and it speaks of reconciliation of human relationships. It speaks of childlike faith. It speaks of adult stuff, and but G-rated. I'd call it G-rated adult stuff. But it also,
Would you say I was hoping it was G-rated?
yeah, it is. It
Do you
speaks
think
of
it's PG at all? I was trying to.
no, no, no. I would not
I was trying to be very careful, but I didn't want to ignore, human reality.
No, Donniel, it is totally G-rated. It's totally
Okay.
G-rated. but not G-rated as in for preschoolers. You know,
No.
it's not written at a preschool level, but it's G-rated if it were to be read. You could sit down and have a family evening and read this to every single person in your family. Okay, but it addresses everything, and it's really like a full package, right? Um, uh, and so, how did you do that? How did you encompass so much in one book, and yet there's more to come? Hold on, look out, Laura Ingalls. Donniel Candy Sims is on the way in Hope Realized series.
Laura Ingalls. um, well, I guess I just wanted hope to be realized. No, I'm kidding. I was trying to fit that in somewhere. um, I don't know. I think I just let the characters do it. I mean, I promise you, I just let them live their lives through my clicking. I just let them live their lives based on the heart of it. The heart of it was going to be called A Heart That Hears, but it didn't resonate all the way. But Hope realized, goes throughout the whole book. But I guess I really just let them do the story. And that's why sometimes, readers groups and all of them, they wanted me to give, they said, oh, come be a part of our thing, which I think is wonderful. I'm not putting that down. But there's something in me that it was like, no, I'm not going to just, it's like gossiping about your children or something. I didn't want to just I didn't want to give anybody pages and tell me what to say because I didn't want their input. And maybe that's arrogant, but it's like my characters. And even when I had challenging times with as a mom, I would always remember that God knew that I was their mom, and so
That's
He was going to
right.
help me figure out what to do. But as far as my characters too, I don't know. When I don't write, I feel like they're sitting there, like, okay, like they're standing there frozen, waiting for me again. Like, just like, what are you going to do? Why are you just leaving us here? And like when I go and make a sentence, I feel like they're like, oh, thank you. I want to do something. I'm so tired of just sitting here. Are you just going to let me sit here and do nothing the rest of your existence? What's going to happen to me? So I really feel like they're real.
That's really good. And even what you mentioned about your kids, right? Um, it's easy for anybody to say, I think this, but they're not the parent, right?
Yeah.
It's easy for somebody to say, oh, you should do this in a relationship situation, but they're not the one living in the relationship, right?
Right.
It's easy
Yeah.
for somebody to speak into somebody's marriage if they're not A, B, C, or D, right? It's easy because you're not the one walking in the shoes day in and day out, but your characters are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but it also shows us, I think it shows a strength in you. It doesn't show a weakness, right? So somebody could land blast, blessed is the counsel of the multitude, but if you were created to be I'm going to call it a secluded, um, with a fine-tuned ear to hear what you were created to hear, so that you would receive encouragement from a particular source, so that you could speak the encouragement in these isolated situations with, I guarantee you, thousands of people in the 50 and change years you've been alive. There is not one single memory I have with Donniel Candy Sims where there was not encouragement that has come out of her mouth. Not one. And I am just one human being who's been impacted by your life. So you have remained true to your character. Therefore, they're saying, DCS, don't you dare change our character and let us be heard.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
this is an appropriate cover because when somebody picks up these little things, right, which is they're basically dreadful. They turn into weeds in the neighborhood.
I
Right?
know that's it.
So you try to kill them before.
Yeah.
But we've been taught or trained. You pick those up and you say, "Make a wish," and you blow the weeds out into society.
Yeah.
So, okay, so share with us the courage that it took to contact Jillian. You said her name was right. To
I'm Julia.
Julia, to contact Julia. Tell us what was going on inside of your mind when you finally decided to, okay, I'm going to hand it to somebody to look at? Tell us some of the
Well,
steps that were involved in that.
Wilson Rawls, who wrote Where the Red Fern Grows, his if I'm remembering this correctly, and if you are family um, or privy to that information, and I'm saying it wrong, feel free to reach out to me and correct me. But what I have read is that he was he had a trunk full of manuscripts he'd written or works that he'd written. He didn't have self-confidence and he burned them. And so I can't imagine what else was there. Maybe some of my characters. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be crazy. And I brought them to life. But anyway, when it came time to um, writing um, getting Where the Red Fern Grows published, his wife was the one who edited it. Once again, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, anyone. And that she had encouraged him, no, you need to write this. It's great. You need to write. You need to publish it. So we did. But that encouraged me to believe in myself, because I went to a book signing of a young man named Aaron Duckworth of his book series Cautious, and he encouraged me to believe in myself, to do it. He introduced me to Julia Royston to help me get it published on Amazon. His mother is a good friend of mine and church family sister that I've known for years, Addie Duckworth. But they encouraged me to do it. And then when Julia first, I let her have the book, the whole process, how you do it, you email it to them. And then when I got her phone call, what she said, the first word she said was, after I said hello, was, wow. And my mind was thinking, did she read my book? What do you mean? I didn't think of it like that. And even now, I don't think of it in an arrogant way, or that's hard to say. I can't say the right words because I don't want to. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but all I know is that I got off the phone with her and I reread it, because she told me, she said, it's deep. It could be analyzed in schools. There's so much depth in there, in the characters and the situations, relationships, just however she said it. And I was like, huh. And I thought, is she just saying that because it's a family friend and she's kind enough to help me publish it? I'll never truly know, but I believe she's an honest woman. And if she says something, that's what she meant. And so I read it again, and then I did see a little more depth into it, and so I'm losing track. So
Okay,
maybe you can get me back on track.
I'm gonna interject. I'm gonna interject here.
Please
Okay,
interject.
so let's think of this. Not to discredit a certain manufacturer that's out there that takes smaller condensed versions of writing and puts them into a folded piece of cardboard, and people put them in envelopes and send them out with a stamp. Okay, not to discourage that industry, but I would encourage people who want to send "you're beautiful, just thinking about you, how you doing." I would encourage people, get stacks. I think I bought 20. Okay, not just because she's my sister, but instead of sending a CARD, I decided to send a BOOK, to just let people, because the title in and of itself, how many people don't know someone who needs to live in the realm of hope realized? And if you can have take your eyes off of the problems, off the stresses, off the what you don't have, and put somebody in the environment of hope being realized, right? Who doesn't need that? I'm sorry, we are not all Pollyannas, right? And Pollyanna came across a grumpy grandpa, or was it a grandma? Grumpy grandpa and grandma, right? In the story, there was a grumpy grandpa and grandma in Pollyanna's story, yeah. And so, and when we see things, right? Oh, today's highlighted speaker, who I'm not being paid for, FYI, Dr. Carolyn Leaf. Think, learn, succeed. Think, learn, succeed. that is in essence when it says hope deferred makes a heart grow sad. Or there's another statement that says, although there's tears at night, joy comes in the morning. You know, so, you know, Donniel, can you share with us some of the feedback from other people that you've received from Hope Realized?
I haven't received a lot of feedback.
What?
Just that one of my friends here where I live, she had said, keep writing, you're good at it. Another one of my friends had said, when is the next one? We really liked it. Different offices I worked at, I was a traveling assistant for about a year. I had just, given out some books. I was so excited. I don't know. One did find its way to Goodwill, which I really like that because maybe when they were done reading it, they wanted to share it with others. But the beauty behind that is that mom would be proud
That's
that
right.
something made it to Goodwill. And I was so excited. I purchased it, but I'm thinking maybe I should have left it there for it to belong to someone else. But I did give it away. So there that is.
Okay, so I was just reminded of something. I interviewed somebody within the last month, and this is what she said. I've always loved the quote, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Where there is no path and leave a trail. So all of us, it's going to be said of all of us, drop, and then they were no more. Okay? So something has been placed inside of you, and because you walked out a culmination of things that have gone across throughout your lifespan, Hope Realized will be handed in the hand of somebody who needs it. So the characters are alive and active. The characters need to walk out their lifespan as well, because along the way, would you say, okay, tell me, is this an accurate statement? When you're in public and when you're drawn or led or inspired or pushed to encourage somebody else, are you responsible for what happens after you leave that moment? And can you give a moment, can you share a moment with viewers of when you've stood in such a position to be a voice of encouragement?
Well, I think it started years ago. I was taking the bus home from church, and I was down under like the First Avenue Bridge, the old West Seattle, well, the First Avenue, and then the old West Seattle Bridge. And I just felt like this person looked super sad, and I went and talked to him, and I was like, it seems like you're having a hard time today. And he said something about, my parents had committed suicide, and I'm just struggling right now. I just encouraged him, got on my bus and everything. And then there's just throughout the course of my life, I am in situations, and sometimes you don't always have a word for somebody, but sometimes they just need to talk, Even sometimes you might perceive it as they're being haters against someone. Sometimes they just need to talk. I know times in my life I just wanted to talk to somebody and, say something because I needed to get it out. And then if you're not heard, it's like, it's disheartening. So I just think that, and sometimes, when you're put in a situation like that and you don't feel like listening or helping, if you do, you made a difference in someone's life, Sometimes I think we never know the difference you made in someone's life. Years ago, I was at a grocery store, and a woman came up to me and she said, I'm so glad I saw you again. I just needed to apologize. I don't even know what it was for. I don't remember. She thought I'd held on to something. I don't even remember what it was officially, but it meant a lot to her to come and tell me that. So sometimes people just need to be heard, and we need to be there for them,
That's really good.
I don't know if that came out right.
No, it did, Donniel. It did, because that speaks volumes to people, right? If we think of what I just shared about Caroline Leaf in Think, Learn, Succeed, right? So your thoughts taught you a learning mechanism which has caused you to succeed. okay? And you've learned to be a listener. Let's think, oh, we're given 2 ears and 1 mouth.
That's good.
Oh,
That's a,
or hold on. This one's just coming from me, and this is hilarious, even if it's only
yeah,
hilarious to me, right?
yeah.
We have 2 eyes that are divided by this thing called the nose.
I don't get it. Tell me what's going on with that. I
No,
don't get that.
our sight, just meaning our sight
Or
isn't just
sight.
this, it's not just one big old eye and our forehead, right? Like a character, right? But our sight is divided by a nose, which is a sense. It's a sense. It's a sensory system, right? So our nose, it's a sense to cause our eyes to be sensitive, right?
Yeah.
Or one of our sensory systems, right? And so by observing, observing and listening. That's what you're sharing with our viewers, by observing and listening, right? To be slow to speak, right? To see what is like to analyze, so that in another person's life hope can be realized. It's a pause. It's a pause. Oh, okay, and that's why you don't have run-on statements. It's a pause, right? So think of all the different pauses that took place in your life in finishing this project, right? And what kind of encouragement would you speak to viewers that are like, what? If all those pauses took place in her life, surely I could walk out my desire to become an author.
Yes. It took 14 years.
Okay.
Most of it was believing in myself that it wasn't just me ranting on a page or writing things. A pause was having children. A pause was moving. A pause was
Lupus.
lupus, being sick. A pause was working every day, getting home, and you're just tired. But one of the, I forgot to say this, that I had a vehicle that broke down, transmission. And so I took the bus for about a year and a half without a car. And I had a laptop that I would write on. And so in the midst of not having my car, I was able to almost use that bus as a writing den or something. And, I've got some of my friends from my bus route that we went to lunch the other day. And I'm really bad with names. I wish I could say their names right now. I'm so sorry, you guys. But Lupe's name is one that comes to mind. Carol. I'm sorry. I'm not saying everyone's name. But just the fact that they were like, are you done with that? And they all have bought a copy, which is neat. And they want to have like a signing one day. So that was real encouraging to me, But I still am I still get a little shy about people reading it because I don't want them to, judge my characters or think they're not good enough,
But you know what, Donniel, that goes back to what I was sharing earlier, that once you're in that moment to speak the encouragement, you're not responsible for what takes place in that person's life. You're just responsible to voice the encouragement. And you voiced hope realized. This is done. It's volume 1 of more to come. Okay? Because you're not done being an author until the author of your life says you're done. Somebody better write that down. Whoosh! That is good.
And
that is so good. Go ahead.
Can I say one thing while I'm thinking about it? Yes. And it is the fact that if you have an excuse, it's going to work for you, good or bad. So I'm not out of shape because I had 4 kids, but because I'm not doing what it takes to be in shape. I'm not, I haven't done as much as I want to in book 2 because I haven't taken advantage of the time I have. So I can't say I haven't have enough time to do it. I don't have time to do it. We find time for the things we want to do. We find time for the people that we want to communicate with. We find times for the food we want to eat. We find times, we just have to find that time. And I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes maybe making a little prayer and say, okay, I'm going to work these many hours. I have this much sleep. Like, Sean knows that I had to find time for this interview because in my mind, I was thinking, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to, how can I represent on my sister's, you know, on her program? And I just had to believe that I'm doing this for her and for my characters, right? And
That's right.
so
And for all
if
those
you use an excuse,
people.
it's going to work. Excuse will work. So just try not to have excuses, or, you know, and don't give up. You know, there's many ways to die while you're still alive. You know, you're alive, but you're kind of like dead. You're not doing things. And sometimes we take things for granted. You know, we even, I don't know, if we don't do those things, take the walks, if we don't do things we're going to do, what if someday we can't do that stuff, you know?
And
I don't know.
and I would
And like
like to.
live in the moment.
That's
My,
right.
my
That's
friend,
right.
yeah, my friend Robert Gasway, he's mentioned at the beginning of the book, or he's in the acknowledgments. He had said, you know, if we live moments by moments. And once I was going to name the book, The Moments of Chloe Faith Roberts. That was the original name. Oh, I need to put in there that I know I'm not ADHD. Maybe I am. I don't know. I do like caffeine, but um, Chloe Faith was the name of a little girl at Starbucks 14, 15 years ago. She was dancing around, jumping. I was sitting there trying to put words on pages. And I told the mom, I wish I knew who she was still to this day, but in Albuquerque. I tried to look the name up in Albuquerque with no luck, but her name was Chloe Faith. And I told the mom I loved her name and I was going to use it. So anyway, that's where I got Chloe Faith from. This cute little girl just bouncing and dancing around in Starbucks.
And I just want to speak of the character of Donniel, to share with other people as well. Is when Donniel Candy Sims went through lupus for the first time, she was working full time, meaning she was working 60 plus hours a week. She was going to school to get her realtor's license, and she was a single mom of 4 kids. So let me think for a second. Oh, that blows excuses out of the water. For somebody to think, I can't keep going on to realize hope in my life.
One of the worst enemies is feeling sorry for yourself. If you feel sorry for yourself for a second, it's going to drag to a minute. It's going to drag to an hour. It's going to drag to a day, a week, a year, 10 years, if you feel sorry for yourself. So just always tell yourself, I'd rather feel proud of myself than sorry for myself. And I'm still working on that one, because there'll be times I hit the snooze and I'm like, I felt sorry for myself. I just needed those few extra minutes instead of doing what I needed to do. But you always feel better if you push forward.
That's right. And one thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because like there was a phrase that was put into my mind in the thicket of raising my kids. I worked outside of the home the entire time of raising my kids. And the phrase that was put in my mind was, sleep cannot do for me what spending time in the Word can do. And so I would get up early, like candle, and because that was the only quiet time in my home, right? But it also made me what you just shared. Oh, look at that!
Sorry.
They're congratulating Donniel already on getting her Grammy for being, getting her Grammy, because Hope Realized became a, it replaced certain characters that kids already know about, and you have DVDs or CDs or Blu-ray discs of these different characters. Donniel's characters are going to replace them, right? Um, but I think it's really important what you're sharing, because really it came down to a thought, right? Are you going to partner with a thought that's going to cripple you, or are you going to partner with the thoughts that propel you, right? Are we going to partner with the thoughts that cripple you, or partner with the thoughts that propel you? And in essence, this is life. Are you going to move forward or become stagnant? Because stagnant waters, come on, that's like stinky, smelling, nasty. Who wants to gargle with that, right? But if you go through the fresh, like the beauty of the movement of waters, that's refreshing, right? One of the
Yeah.
things about Sagionic is those who refresh others, will they themselves be refreshed? So and also one of the speakers I interviewed a couple months back, or no, we haven't been around a couple months. Let's see, November, December, January. Oh, we have 2 months. We were birthed on November the 7th, 22. Okay, November the 7th, 2022. But he said, I make it a point to look at myself in the eye every day and say good things about myself, right? Because that's not pride. That's coming into agreement with the character that you've been created to be.
And one thing I used to tell myself, I know it might seem kind of strange, was I'm not allowed to walk away from the mirror if it's in the morning getting ready, if it's whatever, without saying something nice about myself, something, no matter what it is, because I pretty much never attained the weight I want to be, or I'm never fully satisfied at something. I always, pick on ourselves like a lot of us do, but I wouldn't let myself, okay, I have to certain smile, something to acknowledge that. And that's just a physical aspect, okay? Because the physical aspect kind of beat you up all day long. And then I try not to look in the mirror all day long, because then I'll pick on myself. I can wear one outfit in the morning. I love it. 2 hours later, I'm like, what was I thinking, right? So I try not to do that. But I do allow myself to be in pictures, because if you don't allow yourself to be in, and I when I was younger, my 30s, I wouldn't look at the pictures, because I'm like, oh, I look like that, really? But now I allow myself to be in pictures. I even look at them now. And I don't criticize myself, because that's so much of hurting ourselves. But then even on the deeper level, let's take away the physical aspect of it, to try to think good things about ourselves, because I'm not perfect. None of us are. And there have been times where I've blown off the handle. I'm Greek, Irish, and Aries, and there's been times that I quit a job. I'm very opinionated. It'll come to certain things in the world, and I will get out there and I will think first. I will act first, think later, because I'm going to fight for that cause. And that's what happens. And then I kind of backtrack a little bit and think, okay. And then I, eat the meat and spit out the bones. I still take what I need from that, but then sometimes I have to redirect myself. But I think that comes with age. I'll see younger people now, and they are so determined about something. And I'm thinking, I just want to be there for them, but I want to let them, walk their own life out too. My opinion can't be theirs, because like my children or my family or nieces, nephews, or whatever, or patients, they're walking out their life, So that's really hard when you're kind of stubborn and opinionated, not to give your opinion to them, but just to kind of try to hear them without judging them.
Yeah, that's really good
I
advice.
kind of went off a tangent, but
no, you didn't. That's really good advice, because I remember our mom used to say,
it's gone.
Hold on.
Gone.
I still have some left in my cup.
Remember we used to do that with ice cream or snacks? We'd like, let's race. We'd race eating as fast as we could, but we'd leave one person, and then only one person ate slowly. So they're sitting there eating the dessert when the rest of us had our dessert gone.
You have no idea how happy that makes me to hear you say that, because over the Christmas break, I had grandkids that played that game, and one of the grandkids became undone, and I was hysterically laughing, not at the grandchild, but hysterically laughing, and my kids couldn't figure out why I was laughing so hard. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. We played that game. And the one kid was tattletaling and saying, these other grandkids are doing this, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's hilarious. So, Donniel, I thank you so much. I thank you for being my sister. And now I've got to interview two of our siblings now. Perry Harris is our sister, and Donniel. And I know that as time goes by, I will not only interview the rest of our siblings, but also other family members. We have our family is so big. My mom gave it the name. Actually, no, it was our brother. It was our brother at my mom's funeral.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was Brian at our mom's funeral that gave the name the Rainbow Tribe, because basically you name the color, you name the language, it's in our family.
Yeah.
And we just have a huge family. My siblings and I, there's 6 of us with an extra addition, 7. And between us, we share 35 nieces and nephews. And so we all loved motherhood, and we could attribute that to our mom. And so for all of our viewers, any last words, Donniel, that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Make a difference, but don't feel like it's your job to make it. Well, make a difference, but don't let that identify you. Still live your life out. stand strong to who you are in the midst of making a difference. Don't like lose yourself in it.
That's good. That's
But
good.
yeah.
That's really good. Thank you. That's important. You know, because one thing that it was shared with me by our brother years ago. He said, Sean, be very careful, because if you're not careful, you will allow people to pick you apart one characteristic at a time. He said, so stay true to yourself, but yet have a teachable ear. But stay true to yourself, because otherwise you'll be like everybody else. And our mom was called One in a Million. And she even had a shop in West Seattle called One in a Million. If you knew our mom, you would know she's one in a million, because our mom was, she gave flamboyant a new name. She was 5 foot, 325 pounds on the low end in her life. And she was a very eccentric woman. But through that eccentricity, she launched 6 very strong children. So,
Sean,
what?
see behind me, see that mirror?
Yes.
Who's in the mirror?
I can't see who's in the mirror.
That's Dad.
Oh.
Dad's picture just happens to be in that mirror. Isn't that funny?
I love it. And you know what?
We tried to do it on his birthday, but you know.
Yeah. So do you know what I do, Donniel? For the speakers, the email that goes out to our speakers, I attach a picture of our mom and dad, with mom in green cheerleading outfit and dad wearing a corresponding green shirt. And I say, my biggest cheer leaders in life are my parents in heaven.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So we tribute this program to Louis Lovey Green. Who was a man who was a sailor, who was purposely positioned in Bremerton, Washington, who saw my mom, our mom, who said, you're the woman I saw in a dream, and I'm going to marry you. And I saw many children. He did not know my mom had 5 kids. So a sailor from Chicago, Illinois, from the thicket of the hood in Chicago, Illinois, was given eyes for our mom. And he was the best dad ever. So we give this program to our parents in heaven today. And to all of our viewers, I want to say thank you for coming to this tear-jerking episode of Sagionic 1027.
And thank you in advance for inviting my characters into your lives.
Yes, I love it. So in the description of this YouTube video, you will see how you could get this book. I'm trying to learn how to do this.
That's hard, isn't it?
One day I'm going to have a whole camera crew. Right? I will have a camera crew, and somebody will bring me my coffee just like I like it, the right temperature, the right color. And here we have a moving picture, right? So this can be purchased on Amazon, Hope Realized. And I would encourage you, instead of just getting the one time you can only see one thing written in a CARD, get a book. Get your family members a book. Get a friend a book. Who is not going to fall in love with Hope Realized, for goodness sakes, right? So for all of our viewers, I would like to say, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee. Blessings. Bye.